What happens when one of the world's richest men is treated like an ordinary person? The lesson is unforgettable. The sun had set over Los Angeles, and the city's nightlife was in full swing. On Main Street, a modest family-owned restaurant named Carlos's Kitchen was bustling with activity. Inside, the tables were packed, the air filled with the mouth-watering aroma of freshly prepared dishes. Behind the counter stood Emily, the food manager. Known for her no-nonsense attitude, she had a reputation for running a tight ship. The restaurant's owner, Carlos, admired her ability to handle pressure. This particular night, though, Emily was more stressed than usual. Customers were piling in faster than they could be served. A long line had formed near the counter, and Emily was trying her best to manage the flow. Amidst the chaos, a man walked in wearing a plain hoodie and jeans. His face was partially obscured by a baseball cap, and he stood near the counter, quietly observing the crowd. Emily noticed him immediately. He wasn't dressed like the usual customers, and something about his demeanor made her suspicious. "Another influencer trying to make a scene," she muttered under her breath, rolling her eyes. She decided to keep an eye on him. As the man stood there, a few customers gave him curious glances, but no one seemed to recognize him. Emily was too busy to care about appearances. To her, he was just another potential disruption in an already chaotic evening. Little did she know, this seemingly ordinary man would soon turn her world upside down. Emily's patience was wearing thin. The line at the counter was moving slower than usual, and the man in the hoodie hadn't moved an inch. He wasn't seated, he wasn't ordering, and he wasn't leaving. After another few minutes, Emily decided to address the situation. Approaching him with a firm tone, she said, "Excuse me, sir, but if you're not ordering, I'll have to ask you to leave. We're very busy tonight." The man looked up, his face partially revealed under the brim of his cap. He spoke softly. "I'm just waiting for the line to clear. I didn't want to disturb anyone." Emily's brow furrowed. "This isn't a waiting room," she replied. "If you're not planning to order, I suggest you leave." The man's calm demeanor didn't waver. "I understand," he said politely. "I'll leave if I'm causing trouble." As he turned to walk away, a young boy sitting nearby nudged his father. "Dad, isn't that—" The father glanced at the man, his eyes widening in recognition. Emily, however, remained oblivious. She returned to the counter, muttering under her breath, "Some people just don't understand boundaries." The man exited the restaurant quietly, leaving behind a handful of puzzled customers. For Emily, it was just another minor disruption in a busy night. But for those who recognized him, the moment was anything but ordinary. Unbeknownst to Emily, the man she had just dismissed was no ordinary customer, and the events of the night were about to take a surprising turn. As the man in the hoodie stepped out into the chilly night, the restaurant door creaked shut behind him. Outside, he took a moment to glance back at the cozy little place that had just refused him service. A faint smile played on his lips, but he said nothing. Inside, Emily continued her routine, completely unaware of what had just transpired. A few of the customers whispered among themselves, their voices hushed but filled with disbelief. "Did you see that? I think that was Elon Musk," one customer murmured to their friend. "No way," another replied. "Why would someone like him be here?" The whispers spread slowly but didn't reach Emily, who was too preoccupied with organizing orders. Carlos, the owner, had stepped into the kitchen to oversee the chefs, completely missing the moment. Meanwhile, the man walked down the street, blending effortlessly into the crowd. Despite his wealth and fame, he didn't make a scene. He could have revealed his identity or demanded respect, but he didn't. For Elon Musk, humility was a virtue, and tonight had been a reminder of what it meant to be treated like everyone else. As the night wore on, the buzz in the restaurant settled, and the incident seemed to fade from everyone's mind, except for those who had recognized him. They couldn't help but wonder, why hadn't he said anything? But the real surprise was yet to come. By morning, the world would know about this little restaurant on Main Street, and the manager who had unknowingly turned away one of the most influential people on the planet. The next morning, Emily arrived at the restaurant early, as usual. The streets were quiet, and the restaurant was still closed. She took a deep breath, preparing for another busy day. Carlos, however, was already there, pacing back and forth in the dining area, His face was pale, and his phone was clutched tightly in his hand. "Emily!" he called out the moment he saw her. She frowned. "What's wrong, Carlos? You look like you've seen a ghost." Carlos held up his phone, his hand trembling. "Do you know who you kicked out last night?" Emily froze. "What are you talking about?" Carlos shoved the phone into her hands. On the screen was a headline from a major news outlet. Elon Musk turned away from local restaurant, praises staff for staying true to their rules. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the article. It described the incident in detail, quoting eyewitnesses who had recognized the billionaire. "It was Elon Musk?" Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. Carlos nodded, his face still pale. "People are talking about it all over social media. Some are criticizing us, but most are actually impressed. They're calling you the manager who didn't bend the rules." Emily's stomach churned. She hadn't realized who the man was, but now it felt like the entire world was watching. She wondered how Elon himself felt about the situation. Was he angry? Would this hurt the restaurant's reputation? As Carlos continued pacing, Emily sat down, her mind racing. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. By mid-morning, the incident had taken over social media. Videos from customers who had recognized Elon Musk the previous night were trending across platforms. One clip showed the man in the hoodie standing near the counter, followed by Emily asking him to leave. The caption read, "The night Elon Musk was kicked out of a restaurant, and he didn't even complain." The comments were a mix of admiration and disbelief. Respect to the manager for treating everyone equally, even the richest man alive. Elon Musk being humble as always. No drama, no flexing. This manager better not lose her job. She was just doing her duty. Emily sat in the staff room, her phone buzzing nonstop with notifications. Friends, family, and even strangers had started messaging her after recognizing her in the videos. Carlos walked in, looking both excited and nervous. "You're trending, Emily," he said, holding up his tablet. "Our restaurant's name is everywhere. And guess what?" "What?" Emily asked hesitantly. "Elon Musk tweeted about us." Her heart skipped a beat as Carlos handed her the tablet. On the screen was Elon's tweet. "Had a funny experience last night. Got kicked out of a small restaurant because they were busy. Respect the hustle. Great food, though." Emily stared at the words, her emotions a whirlwind of relief, shock, and pride. Elon hadn't been offended. He had praised them instead. Carlos clapped his hands together. "This could be huge for us, Emily, but we need to be prepared. Reporters might show up, and we'll have to handle the attention." Emily nodded, realizing that the humble little restaurant was now at the center of a viral story. The day passed in a blur as curious locals began flocking to the restaurant, eager to see the place where Elon Musk had been turned away. By lunchtime, the line stretched down the block. Emily and her team worked tirelessly to manage the crowd. Carlos took the opportunity to share the story with customers, who eagerly snapped photos of their meals and shared them online with the hashtag #CarlosKitchen. But the biggest surprise came late in the afternoon. As Emily was wiping down tables, a sleek black Tesla pulled up outside. The crowd outside parted like the Red Sea, their phones raised to capture the moment. The car door opened, and out stepped Elon Musk. He was dressed casually, much like the previous night, and walked straight toward the entrance. The entire restaurant fell silent. Emily froze, her cleaning rag still in hand. She couldn't believe her eyes. Carlos rushed to greet Elon at the door, his face a mix of awe and excitement. "Mr. Musk!" Carlos exclaimed. "What an honor to have you here again." Elon smiled warmly. "I didn't get a chance to try the food last night. Thought I'd come back today." Carlos laughed nervously. "Of course! Please, come in. It's on the house." Elon waved dismissively. "No need for special treatment. Just treat me like any other customer." As he took a seat, Emily hesitated, unsure if she should approach him. But when their eyes met, Elon gave her a reassuring nod. "Relax," he said, his tone lighthearted. "You were just doing your job." Emily exhaled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. This time, she wasn't going to let the moment pass without making it right. Emily straightened her apron and approached Elon's table with a determined yet nervous energy. The restaurant was unusually quiet, with all eyes on her and the world's most famous entrepreneur sitting at the corner table. "Good afternoon, sir," Emily said, her voice steady but her heart racing. I want to apologize for last night. I didn't recognize you and—" Elon raised his hand gently to stop her. "No need to apologize," he said with a smile. "You were doing your job and you did it well. You run a tight ship here. It's impressive." Emily blinked, surprised. "Thank you. That means a lot." "Now," Elon continued, leaning back in his chair, "I've heard the food here is amazing. What do you recommend?" Relieved by his easygoing demeanor, Emily quickly regained her composure and listed the restaurant's specialties. Elon listened intently, nodding at her suggestions. He eventually ordered the house special burger and a side of fries. As the kitchen rushed to prepare his order, Emily made sure everything was perfect. She supervised the plating herself, ensuring the food looked and tasted its best. When she finally brought the plate to Elon's table, she noticed a subtle smile on his face. "Looks fantastic," he said, taking the first bite. The room seemed to hold its breath as he chewed thoughtfully. Then, with a grin, he announced, "This is incredible. You weren't kidding about the quality." The restaurant erupted in applause, breaking the tension that had hung in the air. Emily smiled, feeling a sense of pride and relief. This was more than just a meal. It was a second chance, and she had seized it. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of something much bigger. After finishing his meal, Elon leaned forward, his expression serious yet approachable. "Carlos," he called out, gesturing for the owner to join him. Carlos hurried over, his excitement barely contained. "Yes, Mr. Musk? How can we help you?" Elon folded his hands on the table. "I've been to many restaurants around the world, but there's something special about this place. The food, the atmosphere, the way your team handles pressure, it's impressive." Carlos and Emily exchanged a surprised glance. "Thank you, sir," Carlos said humbly. "We do our best to keep our customers happy." "I see that," Elon replied, "but I think this restaurant has the potential to grow. Have you ever considered expanding?" Carlos hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "Well, we've thought about it, but it's a big step, and frankly, we don't have the resources." Elon smiled. "What if I told you I could help? I'd like to invest in this restaurant. You keep the soul of the place intact, and I'll provide the funding and resources to open more locations." The entire room seemed to freeze. Emily's jaw dropped, and Carlos looked like he might faint. "Are you serious?" Carlos stammered. "Completely," Elon replied. "I believe in supporting businesses that bring people together, and this place does exactly that. Think it over. I'll have my team send over the details." Carlos nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you, Mr. Musk. This is unbelievable." Elon stood, leaving a generous tip on the table. "Thank you for the meal," he said, turning to Emily. "And thank you for staying true to your principles. That's what makes this place special." As he walked out, the restaurant erupted into cheers. Emily and Carlos could hardly believe what had just happened. The next morning, Carlos and Emily found themselves sitting in the restaurant's small office, poring over documents sent by Elon Musk's team. The proposal was straightforward. Elon would invest a significant amount to open 5 new locations, with Carlos retaining creative control over the menu and operations. "This is life-changing," Carlos said, his voice trembling. "But it's also terrifying." Emily, sitting across from him, nodded thoughtfully. "It's an incredible opportunity, Carlos, but we need to make sure we can handle the responsibility. Expanding means more staff, more logistics, and more pressure." Before they could overthink it, Carlos's phone buzzed. It was a call from Elon's assistant. Carlos put the call on speaker. "Good morning, Mr. Carlos. Mr. Musk wanted me to remind you that this offer isn't just about expansion. It's about preserving what makes your restaurant special. He believes in your vision and wants you to feel comfortable with the decision." Hearing that gave Carlos and Emily a sense of reassurance. "We'll do it," Carlos finally said, his voice steady. Over the next few weeks, the restaurant became a hive of activity. Elon's investment wasn't just financial. His team provided expertise in logistics, marketing, and operations. Carlos Kitchen 2.0 began to take shape. The first new location opened a few months later, and to everyone's delight, it was an instant hit. Lines stretched down the block, and customers raved about how the food retained its homemade charm despite the larger scale. Emily was promoted to operations manager, overseeing all new branches. She found herself busier than ever, but also deeply fulfilled. She had gone from a nervous employee to a confident leader, all because of one unforgettable night. Months after the expansion, Emily stood outside the original Carlos Kitchen, now a local landmark. The once humble restaurant had become a symbol of community and resilience. A small plaque near the entrance read, "Here, humility met opportunity, and a simple meal turned into a life-changing moment." Emily often reflected on the night she asked Elon Musk to leave, unaware of who he was. She smiled at the irony. What had seemed like a mistake had turned out to be a blessing. The experience taught her something invaluable. Treating everyone with respect, regardless of who they are, can lead to unexpected rewards. The world is full of opportunities disguised as challenges. Carlos, now a respected figure in the culinary world, had a similar takeaway. "We didn't change to please others," he often said during interviews. "We stuck to our values, and that's what caught Elon's attention. Success is staying true to yourself." Elon occasionally visited the original location when he was in town. During one such visit, he told Emily, "This place reminds me of why I started my journey. Hard work, humility, and passion. It's all here." As Emily watched Elon leave, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. That single encounter had transformed not just her life, but the lives of everyone involved. The story of Carlos Kitchen continued to inspire people worldwide, proving that even the smallest acts, like treating someone fairly or working with integrity, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. As the sun set over the bustling restaurant, Emily took a deep breath, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. After all, she had learned that with the right attitude, even the most unexpected situations could lead to success. If this story moved you, don't forget to share it with someone who might need inspiration today. Subscribe for more uplifting stories that remind us of the power of kindness and humility.